Remember when Jontay Porter got permanently banned from the NBA? He got charged with a felony for betting on his own games and providing info to his, quote, betting partners. We've seen players get banned for drugs before, but this was the first time a player got banned in this manner in the NBA. For a player who was pretty much useless on every team he's been on, Porter capped off his career by breaking a milestone for the stupidest way to get banned from the league. But what about other young players that saw their careers get cut short? Not due to lack of talent, but sheer stupidity in ways that rival that of Jontay Porter. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today we're taking a look at 4 other young players who stupidly killed their own careers. Careers that were once considered very promising and filled with potential. But before we continue, I want to give a huge shout out to my favorite browser, Opera. Now, like many other guys who sit in front of the computer all day for work, I've dabbled in my fair share of browsers. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to Opera and its remarkable features designed to maximize your browsing experience. Check out their new browser AI called Aria. Aria can generate an image if you type in a simple prompt. You can also use the command line control or command +/ to open Aria without using the sidebar. And it has image recognition, where you can upload a photo and Aria will interpret it to provide you the context behind it. For example, here's a photo of LeBron crying and hugging Kevin Love. But if I upload it into Aria and ask, when did this photo take place? Aria perfectly analyzes this photo and responds, it happened right after the Cavs won the 2016 NBA championship. The best part about Aria that I absolutely love, it's completely free. All of their built-in features are just insane. A built-in ad blocker, a free built-in VPN, integrated social media apps and music. They're so much further ahead than any other browser. So what are you waiting for? Click my link in the description below to download Opera for free. Thank you to Opera for sponsoring this video.
Setting him up. Primo. He's a do-it-all guard that's got tremendous potential. He's got size and versatility on both ends. You know, he can be a 3-level scorer, a solid defender. He's going to be a very good defender, but boy, is he young.
Josh Primo. Originally considered a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, Josh Primo had a lot going for him. A shooting guard with one of the prettiest shots you'll ever see, combined with an incredible motor and knack for getting to his best spots at the right time. Primo had all the makings of an elite 3-and-D player in the NBA, and that's what he was projected to be. So when the San Antonio Spurs drafted him with the 12th overall pick back in 2021, the immediate reaction was, oh, this is perfect. This is a raw, young prospect with the tools and skill set to drastically improve under the tutelage of the most well-respected organization in basketball. The Spurs are the perfect fit for somebody like him. Primo was actually the youngest player in history to play in the NBA who also attended a full year in college. He was 18 years old at the time of the draft and wouldn't turn 19 until December. Heck, hilariously enough, the first thing Greg Popovich noticed about Primo was this. Quote, Joshua has an uncanny maturity about him, kind of a steady demeanor. He's going to be a hell of a player. Yeah, I've never seen Pop be this wrong before. He said this shortly after they drafted him, but it wasn't too long after when Primo proved his theory wrong. He was the antithesis of mature. Fast forward a year later, and around mid-October of 2022, shortly before Primo's second year, he got waived. The Spurs released a statement claiming he exposed himself in front of several female employees. A few weeks later, Dr. Hillary Cauthen, the former team psychologist, filed a civil lawsuit against the Spurs, claiming Primo exposed his genitals to her 9 times in 10 months. And the Spurs did not do anything about it. However, this claim was met with mixed opinions, as Primo's camp denied it, and the Spurs dismissed the case as being prejudiced towards him. Regardless, they still waived him due to the allegations from all the women, and it was confirmed a year later. By September of 2023, Josh Primo signed a 2-way contract with the Clippers. The league finished their investigation and found that he did indeed expose himself to several women, so he got suspended for just 4 games. Despite his claims of mental health problems over the years, no other team wanted to deal with him anymore. Primo was labeled a head case. It's likely his NBA career has reached its conclusion. For a player who was so young and looked like he had such a bright future, one of the cleanest shooting strokes I've ever seen, it's a shame he wasted this opportunity, especially on a team like San Antonio, who do a great job vetting players and making sure they're the right fit. Well, I guess they missed the mark on Josh Primo. Not often do we see Pop and the Spurs make a bad draft choice, but this was certainly one of them. He didn't just throw away this opportunity in San Antonio, but he threw away his entire career.
With the 4th pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Josh Jackson.
Josh Jackson. The 2017 draft was memorable for many reasons. Some players from that class became part of the next generation of superstars who shaped the NBA landscape as we know it. Other players were memorable for other reasons, and the top of the class had a handful of guys who just could not make it big. Of these higher draft picks, Josh Jackson had the most disappointing run in the NBA, and he did everything he could to sabotage his own career. Jackson got drafted by the Phoenix Suns with the 4th pick, but a year prior, he was actually ranked as the #1 prospect in the entire world.
The conference, Mason a 3. Jackson with a good rebound. The game right now. 3, Josh Jackson, book it.
Bridges, he couldn't get that rebound himself, so he tipped it away.
Nice knock away by Josh Jackson.
A 6'8" dynamic athletic wing player who drew comparisons to the likes of Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler. Josh Jackson had all the makings of a defensive powerhouse, with a diverse offensive skill set that still needed work, but the potential was there. Plus, getting drafted to a young team like Phoenix, it was the perfect scenario for him to grow alongside his fellow youngsters. Then, it came crashing down. Unlike Kawhi and Jimmy Butler, right from the start, Jackson's character was called into question. Even before he got drafted, he was involved in a serious vandalism case, where he eventually pled guilty and was forced to take anger management classes. While he struggled off the court, it was even worse on it. It didn't matter which team he played for, Jackson struggled to fit in and develop any sort of chemistry with his teammates, compounded by even further issues with his coaching staff. The frequent arguments, his volatile behavior made him such an unreliable player. One time, according to John Gambadoro, a Phoenix radio host, Jackson showed up to practice so hungover he threw up all over the court. Then, a few months later, he got arrested for getting his 4-month-old daughter high on marijuana, which happened shortly after another arrest at a music festival. Yeah, basically, there were too many red flags to count, and he never seemed to care about getting better either. In 5 years and only 291 games under his belt, Josh Jackson's career could only be described as half-assed. Cause he literally got by with his reputation alone, with teams hoping he could give just an ounce of care into his craft. Even that he could not do. In his 5-year career, Josh Jackson made several trips down to the G League, and that was a wake-up call. Jackson stated, quote, "I'm pretty confident that at some point I will get the call up and be playing at the next level once again." In the G League, Jackson played with a sense of urgency that we never saw from him in the NBA. Oh, you could tell he was desperate to climb back up. The thing is, you could only bounce back so far, until the league starts to realize you're no longer worth investing in. And by early 2023, Josh Jackson made very little progress, to the point where not even the G League considered him anymore. At the age of 25, he was technically approaching his prime, but mentally, he was already checked out. He finished his NBA career as a complete failure, with nobody to blame but himself, for his lack of focus and zero desire to succeed at the next level. Jay Williams. When you see this guy's face, what's your first reaction? Well, he's been one of ESPN's major analysts for a long time, and that's all most people know him for. We see his face all over ESPN.
Because this sounds like a case of recency bias to me.
Okay.
But did you know there was a time when Jay Williams was the most anticipated prospect in the nation? A former College Player of the Year, first-team All-American, an NCAA champion, one of the most exhilarating point guards in the history of Duke basketball. Before Derrick Rose, it was Jay Williams who was supposed to lead the Chicago Bulls into a new era, the post-Michael Jordan era. In the 2002 draft, the Bulls selected him with the second pick, behind Yao Ming. Some say the Bulls lucked into the best player in the country, because not many folks knew about Yao. Jay Williams was the guy to watch, the guy most teams wanted. After his rookie season concluded, a single accident would forever change his life. On June 19, 2003, Jay Williams was riding his motorcycle around Chicago and collided full speed into a streetlight. He was not wearing a helmet. He wasn't even licensed to ride a motorcycle in the state of Illinois, and he breached his contract with the Bulls, which did not allow him to ride motorcycles. Not only did he break several laws and violated his NBA contract, but his body got destroyed. A fractured hip, nerve damage in his legs, a torn ACL among other torn ligaments that needed serious rehabilitation to function. Basically, the verdict was Jay Williams would take a very, very long time to fully recover and get back to walking normally again, let alone play basketball at a professional level.
I was terrified. It was a horrible feeling because first thing that came to my mind was I threw it all away because a stupid mistake happened to me.
It's a process that would take several years, and that's the best case scenario. The worst case, he would never be able to play basketball again, and maybe not even walk again. Needless to say, the Bulls were pissed off. Not only did their prized draft pick, the most anticipated prospect in the country, destroy his own career, but he broke every rule in the book on top of it. Despite several attempts of a comeback, that was pretty much it. He got waived by the Bulls and never stepped foot on the NBA court again. The aftermath of his accident was very tough on him. He got addicted to painkillers and tried so hard in rehab to get back on the court. Years later, he admitted he felt embarrassed, ashamed that his career ended this way. But sadly, not everyone gets a happy ending. He finished his career with just one season played and so much more that he never got to experience. There have been several massive what-ifs when it comes to high draft picks that never pan out, for one reason or another. From Len Bias to Sam Bowie to Greg Oden. For the Bulls, besides Derrick Rose's injury, it was Jay Williams who used to be the biggest what-if in the history of the franchise. The one and only Roy Tarpley. This is a name that might not seem familiar to you, but Roy Tarpley had a significant impact that shaped the modern NBA landscape, but not for the reason you think. He actually became the last NBA player suspended for cocaine use, and became a major reason why the NBA initiated a major shift to cleaning up the league and making sure their image is no longer tainted by substance abuse. The suspension of Roy Tarpley also signified that even the most prestigious players were not untouchable. Tarpley was a former Big Ten Player of the Year in 1985, a former 7th overall pick, a 6th Man of the Year, on his way to becoming an All-Star, a franchise cornerstone for the Dallas Mavericks. But it wasn't just the cocaine. Tarpley struggled with alcohol throughout his playing days. He got arrested several times for driving under the influence, and faced a plethora of suspensions time and time again. Back then, players didn't seek help as much as they should have, and he didn't get much support either. He used to be the poster boy for wasted potential. This was a man who, in his second year, had an absolutely dominant playoff run. The young Mavericks pushed the eventual champion Lakers to 7 games in the conference finals, so close to knocking him out. Tarpley in that playoff run had 2 different games of 20 rebounds, and played like a man amongst boys. The Mavs truly believed he could be their franchise center of the future, and perhaps even a perennial all-star. Unfortunately, his second season turned out to be his last season before the drugs and alcohol consumed his entire being. Jack McCallum of Sports Illustrated described his situation like this. The Mavs did not just stick with Tarpley, a potential superstar, through several alcohol and drug-related incidents. They built the franchise around him. The Mavs would still welcome Tarpley back. In fact, he actually did come back. After nearly a 4-year-long suspension, he got reinitiated into the NBA. The Mavs never gave up hope, and Tarpley returned in 1994. In the years of his suspension, without Tarpley, the Mavs fell to the bottom of the standings and had back-to-back seasons of winning 11 and 13 games. Upsettingly, his return wasn't exactly the also-glorious comeback he hoped for. Tarpley, at 30 years of age, basically got suspended for his entire prime and came back a shell of his former self. Then he got permanently banned for good. His comeback lasted all but 55 games. To this day, the Mavs' struggles in the 1990s can be attributed to Tarpley's absence, and people view him with, mixed emotions. Several accounts of Mavs fans back in the 90s look at Tarpley as a tragic figure, a guy who the Mavs hoped could do what Dirk Nowitzki ultimately did, lead the franchise into a sustained level of relevance for a long time. Perhaps Tarpley didn't necessarily kill his career in the stupidest way possible, but with the way the world back then dismissed the addictive nature of drugs and alcohol, Tarpley was viewed negatively, a guy who preferred to party and do drugs as opposed to caring about basketball, a guy who destroyed his own life as opposed to a victim of severe addiction. If his story appeared in a modern-day setting, I'm sure there'd be a lot more sympathy for what he went through. In 2015, Roy Tarpley passed away at the young age of 50. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you can think of any other young players who just completely sabotaged their own careers. Do you think there could have been measures put in place to prevent them from destroying their own careers? What could they or the NBA have done differently? Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.